Hey there, Wolfpack fans. Welcome to another edition of Wolfpack Watch. This is the Wolfpack Watch after our most recent game, our homecoming game here in the Den versus Kennesaw Mountain, a 21-10 win that saw us get back on the winning track after 3 straight losses. With me, as always, my co-host, Coach Bryant. Coach, we've had a lot happen since the last time you and I talked. The last time you and I talked, it was after the North Cobb game. We didn't get a chance last week because of some issues in our football community last week. Do we want to touch a little bit on the Hillgrove game, just a little bit? The only thing that I really wanted to highlight is that we lost our starting quarterback in that game. He got hurt. Any update on Mr. Bird?
Well, we lost both the starting quarterback and the first backup, Boone Anderson. I've never gone into a game without my starting quarterback. That was the first time that's ever happened. I've never lost a starting quarterback during the year. Bird had made a great play on a quarterback draw, ran upfield, got about 30 yards, and my coaches said they can hear me on the headset. I'm yelling, slide, get out of bounds, get out of bounds. And he told me he was trying to get out of bounds, and then, the number one player in the state ran from the backside, caught him, and 280 pounds landed on him. He broke a plate up here by his collarbone. He had to have surgery the next week. And then Boone Anderson came in and broke his pinky on his left hand sometime in the third quarter. Finished the game with adrenaline and being warmed up. And then he texted me on Sunday. I was in church, told me his hand was still bothering him, that he was going to the doctor. So then we found out that he had a broken bone in his right hand. On his pinky, which was in his left hand. He could play, but it was on his throwing hand. So 26 hours that weekend on football, I had to make 3 different game plans. So it's not ideal. That's not an ideal situation, but it's football. Guys get hurt. It just so happened it was a guy that we'd set up our offense around, in Bird, and then part of our offense is set up around what Boone can do, and I had to redo that as well. So that was a tough game all the way around, the Hillgrove game.
So we lost that game, and we'll leave that in the past. Let's move on to the next game. Yes, you had to write some different game plans for this recent game here in the Den against Kennesaw Mountain, in which you had to start a third-string quarterback, Garrett Creasy, his first Friday Night Lights competition, as I understand.
Yes, sir.
In addition, you also changed it up and used Kellen at quarterback, took direct snaps, threw a couple passes, and ran quite a bit. Speak to the game plan as it was going into Kennesaw Mountain.
Well, we tried to simplify it and do some things that Creasy could do. We basically broke our offense down to what he ran on the JV this year with quick passes and screens and some run pass option stuff. Again, that with Kyle and Boone, we were able to do some power read, zone read, triple option stuff out of the gun, quarterback runs, and with Creasy, we don't have a 4th-string quarterback, so he goes down. We're Wildcat all the time.
Right.
So that game plan changed on Sunday, and then we decided to run some Wildcat stuff. So just not totally, so we wouldn't totally abandon the quarterback run. And Kellen's a smart enough player; he was able to step in and do some Wildcat stuff, and we worked with him some during class and. Some after morning practice, he would stay and we'd go through blocking schemes and his rules on different things. So I thought both of them stepped in and did a good job Friday night.
They did, and albeit against Kennesaw Mountain, we'll forget about the team that we were playing. They came out first possession, scored a touchdown, and put us down right from the get-go.
Yep.
And then we fought back, and I think the defense played outstanding the rest of the game. Again, forget that Kennesaw Mountain isn't the talent that we normally have played so far this year, but the defense stood up and only limited them to 3 points the rest of the game.
Yeah, and that, we didn't put them in a good situation offensively. Had a snap that hit a fullback down on the 20-yard line and gave them the ball, inside the red zone right after the half, the first play after the half. And, our defense, bowed their necks, and it was 7-7 at the time, and held them to a field goal, and that put them up 10-7. After the first drive, our defense did a great job and held them to under 100 yards of offense, which helped us. It was definitely a team win, putting our offense in position to score a couple of late touchdowns.
Let's talk about that defense. You had several players that really stood out, and I think I called their names several times. number 59, his name now.
Carter Strong.
Carter Strong, there we go, Carter Strong. He had an outstanding game
He did.
off the end and seemed to be in the backfield almost every play. You had Tyler Davis play very well, and Riker Brown from the safety position with several hits and several plays as well. Talk about that defense and those three in particular.
Those three did a great job, along with our entire defense. Most of the time our defensive line they're in there to take up the blocks of the offensive linemen and free our linebackers and safeties up rolling down to the box. And Carter Strong's come a long way from where he transferred in, moved here from Michigan. About the fourth game of the year is when he started practicing with us, and so he hadn't been with us during the spring or the first 4 games. So now he's just starting to understand our defensive scheme and what his responsibilities are. Big kid, 6'3", 245, moves really well. So we think he's going to be a really good football player for us next year. Only a junior, so he's got a chance to come back and be a stalwart on our defensive line next year. And then, Tyler Davis had been inside backer. And for different reasons, we had to move him to safety. We try to put our best 11 on the field, and we talked about it at the coaches' meeting that Sunday. Having our best 11 on the field was moving Tyler back to safety from inside linebacker, and then moving Reese Harkins to linebacker, which was one of our best 11 that we put on the field. And then we had to start Noah Lean, who normally starts at safety, had to move him to corner because Latrell Juiceum was out with an ankle injury. So we had 9 starters that started the year out that were starters for us in the spring game that have been out for the last 2 weeks. So I thought our kids did a great job stepping up with all that adversity. I've never been through a season like this, where you got 22 starters on the field in the spring, and we're looking at great things going into the region. And just like life or football, things are going to happen, adversity is going to come your way, and I thought our kids did a great job of picking up that slack and playing through that adversity Friday night against Kennesaw Mountain.
You talk about the adversity. It has been all over the map, and not that we're going to list everything here, but we have had several issues with the team, injuries, other issues, family, problems, a death in the Wolfpack family here recently. Talk about the adversity these kids have had to go through, your coaching staff. You say that you've never been through such adversity. Talk about how you've handled it somewhat personally as well.
Well, it's difficult. Injuries are part of football, and, we always have a next man up mentality. But, sometimes your backups at this level, and the way that we hold our kids accountable, your backups aren't quite as good all the time as your starters. So we take a drop off in productivity there. When you hang your hat on having these guys playing with you all year, and then you got a guy that goes down with an injury, and then somebody gets thrust into a role that they're not typically asked to do. That puts a lot of strain on the entire offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, and the team in the locker room. And then when you have different issues that happen off the field, we won't get into all of them, but and then you have a death in the family, someone that's that's very close to the program, and it was a North Paulding guy, and then his son is on your team, and those ripples are felt throughout the whole program. Donovan, is as great a kid as we've got. I don't know how he's doing it. It's a tough situation, but he was able to be at the game Friday night. And was a captain Friday night, and all these guys played that game for him on Friday night, for him and his dad. It's a tough loss for our North Paulding community, but I feel like the community has rallied around that family. I did a fundraiser last night, Pizza Shack for them. We set up a meal train so we can deliver meals to the family. The meal train slots filled up in about an hour for the next 2 months. So, and then having Donovan back on the field and back on the sidelines with us was a big plus for us Friday night. And his funeral's tonight at 6, and probably about 80% of our team and coaching staff is going to that funeral tonight. Our kids are going to wear our jerseys and all Friday night, or tonight rather.
So, yes, it has been tough losing Mike Morton to this family. I was mighty proud and honored to read that moment of silence for him on Friday night. Whether or not you judge whether I got through it with composure or not, that's up to you. I tried my hardest, but not only was he a member of the Wolfpack community, the North Paulding community, a friend to this program, obviously with a son in the program, but he was a friend of mine as well, and that has nothing to do with football. He was a friend of mine off the field, and I will dearly miss him, and God rest his soul. Back a little bit to the football. I don't want to lose sight of the offensive players in that Kennesaw Mountain game on Friday night. You had Creasy that threw for over 100 yards. Then you had Kellen that threw for a few yards, but also had a touchdown.
He did.
That was a nice touchdown pass that he threw in the corner. And I actually talked to him last night at the Pizza Shack thing for Mike Morton, and he was mad that he missed that down and out or that stop and go with Tanner Bentley in the first half. He said, I just overthrew that by about a foot. He said, but I was told to make sure that the only person that could touch it was my receiver, and that's what I did, and he just didn't get under it. So that was a great play. Then you had runners all over the place. You had Kellen with with a lot of yards running. Zach Crockett looked awesome. Xavier Crockett, excuse me, looked awesome on Friday night. And then Preston Rogers had lots of carries and several yards. You really had them on their heels relative to the running game, even though they probably thought that's what you guys were going to do all along.
They did. They played something totally different on defense than what we had prepared for. We had 6 tapes on them, and what they did to us defensively was, they were keeping 6 and 7 guys in the box all night and daring us to throw. With the third string quarterback, they knew that we had an inexperienced quarterback in the game. So the stuff that we had practiced against, reading the backside inside backer on run pass options, they had an extra guy overhang, so they had one guy that would be unblocked each time. So I thought our offensive line stepped up and did a great job, and our running backs came in, ran the ball hard, especially in the fourth quarter. I thought Preston came in and did a great job, running downhill, not bouncing stuff outside, getting those tough 3 and 4, 5 yards, running in between the tackles, and not putting us behind the sticks, which is what we told them at halftime was, a 7-7 game, and we had hurt ourselves in the first half offensively by false start penalties, holding penalties, just penalties to put us behind the sticks. And when an inexperienced quarterback, second 15 is tough to overcome.
Sure.
When you have to run the ball to be successful. So I thought we did a better job offensively in the second half of, not stepping up and putting us in a bad situation and putting us behind the sticks and getting crazy penalties. Had a couple of touchdowns, like I said, that we left on the field. I told Kellen today we were doing Skelly in practice, and he threw a long touchdown. He said, hey, see, Coach, I can do it. I said, yeah, where was that Friday night on that first ball to Tanner? And he was like, I'm never going to live that down. I said, you played for me for 2 years. You know better. So, but, he's done a great job stepping in and doing some Wildcat stuff. And, Creasy has gotten a lot better from last spring to where he's at right now, that we feel confident that he can step in the game and run the offense.
One other thing relative to the running game, you were able to, especially in the second half, you were able to eat up that clock like there was no tomorrow in that second half. They barely had the ball in the second half because you guys were getting first down after first down after first down, especially when you needed it the most in the fourth quarter to seal that game. Talk about the desire to have that clock running as much as you possibly can in a game where you know it's going to be close.
Well, when you're in a game like that, when you've got so many players out, what you want to do is shorten the game.
Sure.
Especially when you've got the lead. When we're up 14-10 in the second half, and we want to hold on to that lead. We don't want to have to play from behind. So, throwing quick passes, keep the clock moving, run the ball in between the tackles, snap the ball with about 5 seconds left on the play clock to try to shorten the game, keep our defense off the field, and keep their offense off the field. I thought our offensive line did a great job of running our power scheme and our dart scheme, and Creasy did a good job of reading what was going on. And then, jet sweeps with Kellen as a jet sweep guy, as well as Jared Ray and Jeremiah Ray, really, stretching the field horizontally helped us to stretch the field vertically with our inside run game. And I thought they all did a great job in the second half.
Absolutely. So we're now 6-4 overall, which, by the way, 6-3 overall, which, by the way, guarantees us a winning record this season.
Right.
So we'll be above 500. You're 1-3 in region. And lo and behold, here comes the McEachern Indians, ranked number 2 in the state in 7A. into the Den for senior night here on Friday. And it basically comes down to a win, we go to the playoffs, and a lose, our season's done.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Do we still have an outside shot?
We still have an outside shot as an at-large bid.
At-large, you are correct.
Yep.
We still have the at-large in 7A because of Region 1 only have 4 teams. So we'll take that into account too. But just being in the top 4, if we lose, we can't make the top 4.
Right.
We could get in with the wild card after that. Talk about this McEachern team. This is probably one of their better teams we've seen in years, even though they've been good for all the years that I've been around. They're 9-0. They seem to be beating up on everybody. They're probably not an offensive juggernaut like some of the other teams, Marietta in particular, but defensively, they're one of the best teams in the state.
They are. They're one of the best teams in the state in all areas. You know, their defense is, they're big up front. They're fast. They move around. They've got enough guys in the secondary that they can lock you up and play man and keep 7 in for the run game, which is going to be a challenge for our guys offensively. And then when they're on offense, I mean they've got a kid a receiver that's going to Alabama, another one that's committed to Clemson. Then you've got a quarterback that's committed to Florida. That's a junior, and they're big up front. So it's going to pose a great challenge for us Friday night. I mean they're by far top to bottom. Offense, defense, special teams, they're by far the best team that we played so far this year. Not even close. I mean, Marietta's a really good football team, and so is Hillgrove and North Cobb. But these guys, just man for man, are a different animal than anybody we've played.
So you now have Garrett and Kellen sort of alternating at quarterback. How important in your mind was it that Garrett got some reps in a game against Kennesaw Mountain before we see the McEachern Indians come here? Because you got to figure there's going to be some deer in headlight moments come Friday night.
It was, and I told him, before the game, I said, look, we're going to run. We're not going to put you in a bad situation. We're going to call the offense to things that you can do, that you do well. I'm not going to ask you to do something that you're not comfortable with doing. So I met with him every day last week after practice for about an hour. Him and Harry Brooks, who's another one of our quarterbacks. That's only played football. This is only his second year playing, so the nuances of football are still, Harry's going to be a dude. He's going to be an athlete, but, he'll give us the opportunity to be able to run some quarterback if something happens to Creasy. Creasy was undefeated when he quarterbacked for the JV this year. And Creasy is the epitome of a team-first guy. When in the off-season, when we're going into the season, I would flip-flop quarterbacks with him and Boone Anderson, a freshman, where one would play on the freshman team one week, one would play on the JV one week. And, a sophomore playing with the freshmen sometime, they may have the big hand and say, Coach, I'm not going to do that. Creasy didn't do that at all. He stepped right up and said, Coach, I'll do whatever I need to do to help the team be successful, which is what he did. And, that's a testament to him and how he was raised. His parents have done a great job with him. And he's the epitome of putting the team before yourself. And, he had a chance. First varsity start, he gets a W. 11 for 17, I think 13 for 17 passing for 119 yards and a touchdown. One bad throw on an interception, and we went over that with film yesterday with him. But all in all, I thought he did a great job of managing the game and getting the ball to our playmakers in space. I told him before the game, I said, look, you're going to be nervous. I said, but first game I started when I was a sophomore, I said my coach told me, look for contact on the first play or throw a pass on the first play, and that'll get all the nerves out. So first play of the game, we ran a little pass to Tanner for about a 6-yard gain, and then the nerves were out the window then, and then he just settled down and played football after that, and I thought he did an outstanding job Friday night.
I do too. I think it was comforting to see somebody as young as him and as inexperienced on Friday nights go out there and put together a good game. And I don't care about the opponent. I think it's impressive that he stayed composed and put in a good effort and got us a win Friday night. So here we go. We're going to finish up the regular season Friday night here in the Den. It is senior night. And we've got a lot of seniors, not only from the football team, the band, the cheerleading squad, and the football managers to recognize here. That'll start around 6:15 on Friday night, so I encourage you guys all to get out here as early as you possibly can for that. McEachern does travel well, so they will be out to cheer on their team. I challenge our fans to get out here. Let's try to get an upset for the ages here in the Den. Maybe the first time we've ever beaten McEachern in the history of this program. That would certainly be something to remember for all future generations of Wolfpack players. So, Coach, anything else before we get out of here on this second to last episode of Wolfpack Watch?
Just a message to McEachern. If I was McEachern, I would sit all of my starters Friday night. I wouldn't play them at all. I mean, because win or lose, I mean, you guys are going to be the region champions. So I'd sit all my starters Friday night and make sure they don't get hurt. Just like the NFL teams do when they've already qualified for the playoffs. I wouldn't play any of my starters, just a thought.
Absolutely. I second that. Jeff, do you third that over there? All right, so he does. He shakes his head yes. All right, so McEachern, leave your starters on the sidelines, play your second teamers, and let's see if we can't have a really good game out here in the Den Friday night. Be out there for senior night, 6:15 festivities start pregame, and then we'll get the game rolling around 7:30. Final game of the year before we hopefully hit the playoffs, either by winning this Friday night or as the at-large team if we happen to get that. So from me and Coach Bryant, thank you for joining us. Go Pack Friday night.
Go Pack.
Let's get that win against McEachern.